Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Redrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Neil, do you want to go on?
A load of flyers would be good, wouldn't it? You know, just handing flyers out.
I could do those as well. I'm doing the poster now for Jason to take on the tour. So I'll do that. But yeah, little A5s would be fine. Copy of it as to hand out would be quite cool as well. Yeah, bit of your poetry, dude.
Yeah. I might come and just fucking stand there and shout about it.
Oh, come down and read some. I'm sure there'll be a megaphone or two spare on these tours.
Where's the bus going? Where's the tour going to be? Where's it ending up and where's it starting?
It ends in Preston. I'm just waffling now, trying to get the dates. I'll tell you where it goes through.
It ends in Preston.
Yeah. So Riley, I'm going to speak to Anthony, see if I might meet Tony up there. It starts at Plymouth on Monday the 11th, and consecutive days follows Bath, Cardiff, Gloucester, Birmingham. Birmingham the 15th, Nathan.
So you're basically going up the west. You're going up the west coast.
It's starting south. It's going up to the Midlands, over to the east coast.
Oh, you're going over to the east coast. Where are you going on the east?
It goes Plymouth, Bath, Cardiff, then Gloucester, Birmingham, Cambridge, Norwich. It only goes to Norwich, Nottingham. Then back over to the other side to Hull, then Leeds, then Preston.
Wow, so you are weaving all over the country then?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not using the minibus. I was chatting last night, so there's going to be quite a few folks that were on the buses, but they're all kind of freewheeling it. And Harry's going to be doing it as well, so that'll be cool. It'll be nice to meet up with him again.
Who owns the bus?
That was Jason's, Jason Family Disbury.
Jason Disbury's bus. So
he's just driving, I think, this time. He says he's just crashing in his car.
What month is that, Adam? Sorry.
He's not taking the bus then?
No.
Why not? Is it just a bag of old nails now?
I think it's probably been delivered and I don't know. I'll ask him. I'll find out because I've got to speak to him in the week. But yeah, as far as I know, it's just lots of people making up. So Sven's come in, who was on the tour, joined after me on the for the Germany section. So there's quite a few folks coming, I think, but just kind of independently as opposed to on the Mad Wagon. It's a shame. I'd have liked to have seen that bus again.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's a certain aspect of nostalgia to the bus itself, isn't there, in terms of people who remember the tour. That said, who cares? You know what I mean? It's really new anyway, so you can't really have any nostalgia about it because it was, a couple of years ago?
Yeah. Nostalgia of smelling, being cramped, and not sleeping for a week. Yeah, and getting assaulted, obviously.
That well, minus the assaulted bit, the nostalgia is more just for the visual, aspect of that representing what the tour was. The bus itself.
Yeah, that's good. Good little thing. It'd be nice to. It would have been cool to see it actually again. Yeah.
Sorry, Adam. What month is it? Sorry, mate.
Sorry, yeah, dude. It's next month. Starting Monday the 11th, and running all the way through to Friday the 22nd.
And just so we're clear, you don't need anything from me specifically, do you?
No, nothing at all. Once I've done the artwork and got all the bits on, I'll just ask you to quickly proof it. Just to make sure I've got the web page, all that really. But it's just if you just put a few bits on there, which will give people links to the show. That seems the sensible thing. Put the housekeeping questions on, and that's it really, mate. So just for you to peruse it once.
There is no web page other than the YouTube web page address.
Yeah.
The web page that I did have was only there when I had about 24 copyright claims all at once, and it was looking like I was going to lose the channel. Well, William Gensker was kind enough to host an absolute shitload of the videos at a great expense, because at the time web hosting video was expensive, and for several months he, out of his own pocket, hosted pretty much the entirety of Flat Earth Debate. We're talking thousands of videos that he paid for the web space to have them on there, in case it all just disappeared. And then obviously from there, a different plan would have had to been worked out. Now, fortunately, I got my channel back, but to this date, I've never bothered taking out the web address from the intros, so it's still in there. I still use it. I'm just lazy. But there we go. So yeah, just thought I'd note that.
Is it still live, the website? Or?
No, there was no point keeping it, because if it's not something I'm going to be proactively driving people towards, there was no point hosting it. And literally when it was up, the only thing it had on was what you couldn't access, because you couldn't, the channels were shut down, all of them. So, there was no way to do anything with any of that material. So because I had it all on hard drives, and not that I knew this at the time, but William and others had downloaded the entirety of the Flat Earth Debate as like an archive. So there was a certain amount of archive material that was just out there. I didn't have to go and download it from the YouTube site. But yeah, so it's one of those. It didn't have any purpose. I have no reason to direct people to a website. I've got nothing to punt. I've got no merchandise. I mean, I did for a time try a merch store. I think I've still got the link into it. I think you can still buy merch from it. I haven't checked it for an eternity. But other than that, there's no point plugging a website if you're not going to really put effort into making the website something special. I'd much rather plug theglobeterminator.com, because that's much more akin to what Huey does, right? He's a very text-based guy in terms of how he disseminates his information, even when he's on a video. So for him, a website's absolutely ideal, and I can see the enthusiasm he has for it and keeping it updated, which I never had. Other than daily, while I was doing it, I would be uploading, because I think I managed to scrap together a channel to continue live streaming, and on that I forgot my point. I forgot what I was babbling about now. What was I on about?
The computer, the web page.
Oh, the web page. That was right. Daily, I was uploading the videos to the web page and giving them a title, giving them a unique thumbnail, labeling them in WordPress, and publishing them. So I was doing that daily, along with uploading 10 at a time to make sure that they were, it was bang up to date. And then almost immediately after I'd got it, and it was all a completely up to date, shiny website with all of them on. A good chunk of it being done by William, not me. But after he showed me how to do it on WordPress, I got the channels back. The copyright claims were taken away, and my channel carried on ticking over. And I carried on updating it, but then eventually I spoke to him. I was like, what do I need to do about this website? It's, he's like, well, what's the point in maintaining it? There's no point. It's hugely expensive. And again, at the time, I didn't realise how much it was costing to keep all these videos hosted. But there we go. It was very, very kind of him to do it, because it was a massive amount of stress to think, what the hell's going to happen to all this material? I've put years of work, maybe 6 or 7 years at the time, into these videos. They're just going to disappear because some assholes come along and decided to put multiple fake copyright strikes on all of my channels at the same time. So stressful. But like I say, the only reason for explaining it is because it's not needed. Because what else am I going to put on there other than videos? I'm not QE.
Now we'll put both the YouTubes, yours and QE's, and then just that Globe Terminator web on there then. I've got one last question.
In very small font, below Flat Earth Debate, and then maybe just slightly smaller, Nathan Oakley 1980 and the YouTube address. And then below that, like, I don't know, like an under title, Quantum Eraser, and then really small font, Globe Terminator, just somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I might even get a QR code or something.
Flat Earth Debate, the largest, maybe taking up, if those big ones that take up half the van, or maybe oversize it so that it overlapped the van, so it was basically taking up all of one side, and then any excess for the logo, just cut it off, and then put the rest of it roadside.
What I'm thinking again is one of those pull-up ones that are like as tall as you and as wide, sort of 2 foot wide and 6 foot tall sort of thing. So we can list all the questions and then they can just pull it up. But
what I was thinking was, if you can get some Flat Earth Debate headrests made up, that'd be awesome.
Put them in the car.
Seat covers, Flat Earth Debate seat covers, that'd be good. I mean, don't make it gaudy, not Fast and Furious. Subtle.
Maybe some flat earth baseball bats for hitting the Globers round the head.
We'll have none of that. Adam, he's not got a good track record when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
Hey, since you guys are talking about all this fancy stuff, why don't you make kind of like a booth for getting Flat Earth Debate tattoos on your forehead?
Right, just for clarity, we were talking about a van. Does a van seem fancy to you, John?
Does a tattoo on the forehead seem fancy?
That's why I was assessing the standards here.
Get a lordy-door transport of a van.
Just to get in, what your even level playing field is. Sort of low standards tattoo on the face, normal, maybe even high standards van life. Okay, we're all clear.
I never thought it would be high standards to live in a van by the river, but things have changed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, since when did the middle classes brag about their container home?
You could also get like a little shooting stall, like an air rifle, where you have to hit the globe at the other end, but obviously we'd have to account for Coriolis and all that. We'll have to get the calculator involved.
What calculator?
I think Virus has got one on the Coriolis calculator.
Seems reasonable. I think people are having a hard time realising that Coriolis is real. Earth-based Coriolis isn't real. Not saying you have this issue, but some of the audience, sometimes I see comments that, don't you realise that Coriolis is fake? What? And you don't want to necessarily spend 20 minutes correcting somebody who's disagreeing with the globe's sentiment of Coriolis deflection that they probably don't understand when they make the claim. It's like, do I want to get involved in this wrangle-dangle? I might talk about it on the show. Coriolis is real.
You're gonna need R for that, and why start begging the question when they don't even have R?
Yeah, that's a sticky wicket, though, isn't it? Because, yes, you will need an R value to assert the rate. Well, okay, so you've got to describe the rate and you need a radius to assert it. Fine. I can do that with a roundabout. So when we say you'll need not, in parentheses, not an R, but you'll need, quote, R, well, we mean Earth radius. Or 10th man in this specific example means Earth radius when we say you'll need R for this example of Coriolis effect. Whereas this example of Coriolis effect is Earth-based Coriolis effect. But Coriolis is very much a real effect. Just toss a ball over a roundabout while you're sat on it. Get someone else to toss it back and forth over the top of the roundabout you're spinning on. And the curve you see the ball taking, which isn't real, it's not curving, but that curve that you see it taking, and you do see it curving, is a Coriolis deflection. Calculable at the rate of the turning roundabout, which you'll need an R for. An R for. Not R.
Lots of R's.
Yeah, but
so-
I've got a physical merry-go-round. I don't need to pretend to have one. I have one right there to show actual Coriolis from a physical roundabout that's turning. But now they need to show me R if they're going to say, I'm going to reify that roundabout to be just like the Earth.
So back
Are we
to when we say you'll have to give us R, it's the R rather than an R, if that makes sense.
It does.
Are we discussing these missiles here? What-
No. Are you taking
No.
acid? What missiles?
No, not yet, Adam.
Oh, yeah. Temp
missiles?
sends me multiple documents, doesn't he?
Is this current affairs? Is this stuff you read in the paper?
No, this is out of a military
Missile guidance book.
talking about Coriolis.
Okay, sorry. I jumped.
saying
I
R.
spoke
It's-
too soon. My bad. Go ahead.
No, it's for later. I don't know why Adam always does this.
The way Nathan was saying multiple R's, I thought, oh, you've obviously pestered him last night as well with it. Oh,
No,
No.
he wasn't even around yesterday.
it's coming then. It's coming then. Was that not yesterday?
Well, I love these
It was
in-jokes when I'm
yesterday,
not part of
and I
them.
sent you a second one.
How frustrated I feel now with not having a vaguest clue what these two are on about is how my audience sometimes feel when my panel give them more in-jokes to chew on. And they're like, you just started a live show and there's reference to what's happened in the previous 20 minutes or 30 minutes. They're like, no, that's got to be explained now. Now, I'm not demanding that you explain this because obviously 10th man's got something to explain. And he'd rather you didn't ruin it so that
Well, the
me
fact-
being in this predicament.
No, the fact that yesterday you weren't here, I decided to share a little research with Adam, and we're not done with the research. That's all.
I've not read the second reference yet. I was going to get onto that this afternoon. But yeah, I think there's a nice bit coming, a nice new presentation in a day or two from 10th, Nathan.
Can I ask a quick question? Any of you play video games?
Yeah, as well.
Do they have ratings?
Yeah,
They
like a
do.
movie.
Yeah, like a movie.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
like
How'd you
Grand
find out the
Theft
rating of a
Autos.
game?
there again, mate. I don't know.
I don't know how to find what. I'll give you my long-winded explanation of why I'm asking. Right. So every time I now buy a new major component for the computer, I stress test it. You just stress test the computer with something that will work every component as hard as it can, which is typically a game. Now, me, I'm not a gamer. I couldn't care less about games. So, as an example of this, I wanted to make the computer as silent as possible, as I've been telling you, and I've been tweaking it and fiddling with it. But now I've done that, I want to stress test it, make sure it all still works fine, nothing's going to go wrong. So I want it to heat up, be under stress, be working hard. Not while there's a show going on, if I've made adjustments. So a game is a good, easy way to just play it. Now, because I can, I've just loaded one game that I'd used last time I did this maybe 5 years ago, which is Grand Theft Auto, which didn't work. It never worked. It was always crashy and buggy, so I gave up on it. But it was there, so I tried it, and it did work. Now, my version of using Grand Theft Auto, I'll tell you what I do. I walk up the street, go to a certain lamppost and look at a cityscape at a certain angle. and that'll work the CPU and GPU really hard, just standing there. That's what I do with the game, right? So that's what I'm doing. So I'm walking up the street with this guy, standing at my lamppost, looking out at the city, and then all I do from that point on is look at the numbers in the bottom right corner. I'm watching everything: CPU temps, GPU temps, the amount of usage, how it fluctuates. Frame rate gives me a good idea of how hard it's working, etc., etc. That's all I'm looking at. Now, while I'm doing this, last time I did this, I probably had one baby as opposed to 2 kids that can definitely pay attention to what's going on. So while I'm doing this, the eldest kid wants to play it. She immediately picks up the controller, and within seconds she's figured out what she's doing. Now, at first I'm like, no, I want to stand at this lamppost. You don't understand, I'm stressing the PC. But within a few minutes I realised that actually it was quite handy because she's walking around. She's actually stressing it more just by doing stuff than me standing in this particular spot doing nothing and just watching the numbers. So I'm coming back, and I'm back and forth looking at the numbers, going in the kitchen. My wife was ill, so I'm checking on her and all the rest of it. And all I'm doing is walking back and forth, not really paying attention to what she's doing. But after about, I don't know, let's call it half an hour, she starts saying things like, I'm going to go and break some bones. Now she's 5. I was like, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. So I turn it off. I'm like, what have I just polluted her with? So I better not play this game anymore. And I told my wife, I fessed up. I'm like, she was playing on Grand Theft Auto. She's like, oh, so what? I was like, yeah, but it's about beating people up. Because I didn't really think about what the game actually is for. Like I say, other than looking at a cityscape by a lamppost.
Daddy, can we go carjacking this afternoon?
Well, exactly. It suddenly dawned on me. Grand Theft Auto, that's about stealing cars and beating people up. And because it stressed my PC quite nicely, I've left her to it. I've never played the game. I think I played it for a sum total when I first got it, installed it, which was off discs. It took an eternity to get it onto the computer. Got it working. And the sum total of actually me playing the game was about 15 minutes actually racing a car around a track, which didn't work very well, and I got bored and gave up. And then found my lamppost, just to stress the PC.
Interestingly enough, as video games have gotten more violent, the rate of violent crime has actually reduced.
Yeah, I understand those sorts of arguments. When my brother was married to a Swiss woman for a while, and when he lived in Switzerland, she had the same argument for prostitution, legalised prostitution there. And it's in very clean, very sterile, government-controlled, licensed facilities, right? And as a result, she was saying the rape rate is very, very, very low here. I was like, okay. That's nice to know.
No, I'm not making an argument for anything. I'm just saying, as far as being exposed to violent content, it doesn't seem to have the same reaction you would think it would have. Seeing violence doesn't necessarily make people violent. I just thought that was interesting.
Or commit to their base instincts. I think in terms of narcissism, which people are getting more and more aware of as time goes on, which I like. I like the fact that people are aware of it. In the Western world, it's at least 1 in 20 people that are a psychopath. I know the nicer, up-to-date way of describing them is narc or narcissist, but I don't know, call a spade, psychopath. Well, if 1 in 20 people are a psychopath, then 1 in 20 people that you come across in your daily life aren't necessarily going to cause you all sorts of trouble. That's not how it works. But it means that you're going to tangle with people who are, I don't want to create the impression I think narcissists or psychopaths are going around killing people or beating people up. I don't think that's the case either. But just bad people. In other words, they don't really care about you or what's going to happen to you or how they might affect you if they do something that isn't conducive to what you might want them to do. In other words, causing you misery. Well, those types of people will be those types of people anyway, regardless if they're playing on violent video games or not. And the type of person that's going to go out and commit a violent crime, if they are of that particular, mental way, i.e. lack of empathy, which is more likely than not the case, then they're going to go and do it anyway. It doesn't make any difference. What they might do, if they get caught, is blame it on the video game, and therefore that gives it some sort of credence in people's minds. Oh, this person did that horrible thing. Oh, but they also described how they spent hours and hours playing on video games that were violent. Therefore, correlation must mean causation. It's like, no, that person was just evil. That's just them doing that thing that they didn't care about the person or victim about. You know, that's what that is. Nothing more, nothing less. But people want to rationalise horrible behaviour. Normal people, not non-narcissists, because narcissists don't care, because they're not going to rationalise anything in that regard. But normal people do, and they want to rationalise on behalf of other people because they do have empathy. So, like I say, someone draws a connection between violent video games and somebody's violent behaviour, probably because it's been voiced in that way. People latch onto it, and suddenly they've got, oh, well, here's the reason. Then it becomes the cause, and then it becomes something that's blameworthy, and we must blame the video games or censor the video games, and so it goes on. Not that I'm a gamer or care particularly, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like they ignore the fact that there were wars and horrible things way before there was ever electronics, and those things were a lot more accepted before electronics as well.
Indeed. Welcome. Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Woo! Can anybody freaking hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Neil.
Okay.
Glad you checked in the pre-show. How you all doing in Discord? Good to have you.
Great, thanks.
Great.
How are you?
Hello, Arwin.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Owen.
Been a couple of days off sicknesses in the family, so my apologies for having no live show tomorrow, if you missed it. There was a pre-scheduled show, so I wasn't actually intending to do a live show yesterday anyway. We had intended to go to Legoland. That was my plan. Not that I tend to tell people what my plans are. But then that got cancelled as my wife was very sick on both Sunday and Monday. And I was like, okay, so I will have a live show. And then my internet failed for all of Monday morning till about midday. So then I wasn't going to have a show. But then it started work again, but I'd already had a pre-scheduled show, so I kind of had an easy day looking after my wife. So there you go, there's the reasons and excuses out of the way in case anyone's wondering why there wasn't a live show yesterday and why I look extremely tired. That's why. So let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative. And what's that have to do with tomorrow?
They
What
have a
about
straight
tomorrow?
line of sight.
What's
but
happening
light
tomorrow?
is bent.
Freudian slip. You said no live show tomorrow instead of yesterday. I think.
Oh, it was an accident. Thank God.
Oh, I said tomorrow instead of yesterday.
Yeah, we were all mortified.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah, it's just exhaustion. I'm very tired. So if
Actually, I was
sound
looking
drunk,
forward to it.
if I sound drunk, I'm not. Great. What,
If
Alvin?
I
Sorry.
sound drunk, I often am.
Yeah, when you sound drunk, you've often had a few drinks, whereas having very little sleep often has a very similar effect on how you behave. Slurred speech and drowsiness and behaving a bit silly. That's generally what you do when you're drunk and exhausted.
Forgetting what you was talking about mid-sentence.
Things like that, like happened in the pre-show a couple of times. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, you've got it.
Whilst we're just on a bit of miscellany, I gave you a quick flash of a screenshot in the pre-show there. Alwyn, you must be making waves, my friend. Jose JG's, he's stolen your presentation screen and tweaked it to his own. Have a little.
Oh, yeah, I heard something like that in my chat.
Yeah. Nice compliment in there somewhere.
The early frog show or something?
Yeah.
As
Rabbit?
in, rather than early bird, early frog.
Yeah. But then he's nicked his screenshot. Well, emulation is a
Well, you know
form
what?
of compliment, isn't it?
I'm kind of fine with him being an early frog show. You know that there's a whole category of birds whose natural prey are frogs. So that's all fine with me.
Yeah. You want to see what bullfrogs can eat. Anyway, fascinating though this is, Adam already said it, imitation is the highest form of flattery.
I guess so.
And on the horizon, though, it seems as if they're wanting to claim that the horizon's a tangent point again.
Oh, right. Oh, I mean, how's that geometric horizon from 2020 working out for you, people who want to claim that you've got a straight line to a physical geometric leading edge of a sphere formerly known as Earth curve? Yeah, we debunked it. Refraction. They have such short memories.
But he's got a straight line of sight, but the light is still bent.
Straight bent line, eh?
No, the line of sight is straight, but the light is bent.
Yeah. You get to that exact conclusion when you get to Andrew Thomas Young and his description of drawing a line of sight to the geometric horizon, OG, and that's the straight line, aka tangent line, and then he takes that line and draws a second line to a second horizon that you can also see, that's the refracted horizon you'll see with your binoculars. Well, he's just drawn a line of sight that's straight to a tangent point horizon that you can't see, but he's calling it a line of sight to it. Yeah, that's a big problem. We've only got one horizon. Again, we covered this in 2020. It's the I'll bark refraction for 2 straight years, and then when we've said till we're blue in the face that ruins your claims of a geometric model with Earth curve at a tangent point, you just carried on repeating refraction to us. Now you want the tangent point. Yeah, refraction. How do you like it coming back in the opposite direction? Is it fun hearing us bark refraction at you and laughing and asking how that geometry's working out for you?
Yep. I wanted to
They don't
mention
have the
something
tangent.
about this this weird false dichotomy, straight line of sight but bent light. You know where that's really coming from? They're mistaking the virtual straight line of sight within their autographic view model, where you can literally have a straight line of sight, because that form of seeing as you look at the graph is not actually seeing, you see? So then they think, oh, but yeah, you can just have a straight line of sight, just like in the diagram, overlooking that that's not what they're claiming to do in the real world. So they're mixing up actual perspective-based sight again with autographic view in order to claim that they can have a straight line of sight with bent light. That's where it comes from. That's what I think.
Yeah, but they need R for the curve that is going to meet the straight line.
Yeah, but they could just presuppose that.
The tangent.
They don't care about science.
They need the curve for the tangent to meet. What they have is a straight line to a horizontal line. They don't have a tangent. It's missing the curve.
Well, even more to
Well-
that, they claim the tangent points at their feet in the same model. They say there's a tangent at their feet and the tangent points at the horizon. That just is not possible geometrically.
But it might be possible if you just think of seeing as not actually being optical, but being like you would look at a graph that is orthographic view based.
Yeah, that's fine till you look out with a sextant and actually do things in physical reality, and the thing you're doing is measuring an angle.
Yeah, but they never get to that anyway, so it's not universally not a problem.
Nathan,
No,
can you go to Master B?
Yeah, hold on. Let's just address that. Yes, I will get to that 10th. That might be the case for anti-flat earthers, Arwin, but it doesn't alter what celestial navigation is and how it is done. They never get to that. What, the anti-flat earthers that deny measuring an angle using the horizon? Yeah, who cares? Okay, got it up 10th.
Good morning, guys.
I know.
Hey,
I
Chocolate.
was just arguing like the root of that statement that Akumu virus brought onto the scene, and that I think is really funny. Straight line of sight, but bent light lines.
You can't have it both ways. If you've got a straight line of sight to the horizon, aka its Earth curve with a tangent point, and it's the leading edge of a sphere and physical, then that's a straight line. Now, if you simultaneously go, oh no, the reason it's behind the thing it's supposed to be blocking, aka the rebuttal to the Black Swan, is because that straight line, I claim, is a geometric physical limitation to our view called Earth curve. Well, that straight, like, it's not straight, it's bent, it's refracted. That becomes the line of sight for a sphere-Earth believer in atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. So they've got their atmospheric laws, and those atmospheric laws with light bending at a rate around a sphere based on the hour of the sphere, all of those have a bent line of sight. Well, you can't have it both ways. We've only got one horizon.
You can if you
Well,
deploy
unless
it
you
in
forget-
orthographic view. You see.
Unless you just choose to forget that you actually see with light. Like you have a straight line of sight, but your light's bent.
Exactly. Unbelievable, says Godzilla37. You missed every one of my 14 super chats yesterday. A new record. Oh, and good morning. Smiley face. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate the support. I'm sorry I missed all 14 of them yesterday when I wasn't live streaming. Sorry to cut you off, Chocolate.
That's right.
While we're on the subject, though, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle
Hang on. You were supposed.
Okay, calculating atmospheric fraction.
All right, we got a subject matter expert, Andrew Thomas Young. Let's read what he says. Calculating atmospheric refraction. All the discussion above deals with plane surfaces, but the Earth isn't flat. To deal with refraction in a curved atmosphere, we have to introduce some geometrical considerations, which have been put on a separate page. Now, what's interesting is that they need a physical blockage of the bottom of boats and buildings. And here's Andrew Thomas Young saying that all of his refraction studies never originated from a curved Earth. What does he say we live on? And how did he ever get it? Well, if he's saying Earth isn't flat, but all of his studies came from flat, then he must not be living on a sphere, because then all of his studies would have come from a curve. I mean, this is so ridiculous that you have to take flat Earth refraction measurements or calculations and then say, but we don't live on a flat Earth, but that's the only way I got them. And then now, if you want to go here, I'll show you how I can make a sphere out of it. Ridiculous.
So, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? Thank you, 10th.
No.
No, you can't have elevation from a curve, no.
Yeah, that was. Sorry, like that.
No, just gonna say, 10th, excellent. That was well said. It's not a sphere, but we're gonna use a plane. Same way of this, it's a sphere, but we're gonna go ahead and use that plane right there on top of that ball, but not really, because when we really show you what we're doing, it's just the celestial sphere, which is like the stars over a plane that they just do like a outline of a sphere around, but you're traveling on the plane.
I was gonna make fun of the Dingleberry too.
About any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? This is the passage, actually, before we go past this, as it's on screen right now, and 10th just mentioned Andrew Thomas Young. Can we see that on screen? Let's just line it up a little bit better. There we go. Okay. And drawn the line of sight to the apparent horizon. The straight line OG. Okay? So let's just look at what I've underlined. Line of sight. We're all clear what line of sight is? It means the line that you're seeing something with. Straight line. OG. Okay, so we've got a line of sight to a straight line. What is it to? It's to the apparent, meaning it appears. You can see it. Yeah? Now, which line is that? OG. The OG line I've highlighted. That's a straight line. So Andrew Thomas Young, in his description of the horizon, has a line of sight to an apparent horizon. And then he clarifies it's a straight line. There it is. However, this entire document is actually detailing how the line of sight that we will see isn't the line of sight to the apparent horizon with a straight line. OG, that's this line. It's actually H. And he's explaining how the horizon that we see is marked H and has a bent line to it. Now, why would he have two horizons? One with a straight line to it, marked at G, and it's got a line of sight to an apparent horizon, and it is definitely a straight line. But yet, the entirety of it is explaining how the singular one alone, we only have one horizon, is marked from O to H with a bent line. Well, that's because they need to refract the horizon beyond its geometric limitations, but they can't have their cake and eat it. You've either got to accept that this diagrammatical example in Muppet Vision is explaining how we have two horizons, because the H to O position isn't a line of sight that's straight to OG and isn't apparent. So which is it? Two horizons, or you haven't got your Earth curve edge geometry OG? Because OG is what's claimed to be blocking boats and buildings and physically limits your view. You can't have it both ways. We've only got one horizon. The horizon in the Earth curve maths is OG. The horizon in this diagram is OH. So which is it? Have we got two horizons? Definitely not. Is the horizon OG? No, we debunked that in 2020. It's beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Behind the oil rigs when it should be at 1.2 miles, if it's physical. So therefore bent. OH. So the horizon's beyond its claim of physically blocking things as Earth curve then. It's not blocking things in the distance. It's not got boats going over it. It's not blocking the Chicago skyline to have the Chicago skyline refracted back up like a hologram. So it's not Earth curve, because we've only got one, and according to this diagram, you've got a bent line that's bent based on the radius taken from a measurement of OG to R. This is the R value in that triangle. So if you've got a geometric value and a claimed radius, you can't be bending the line that you need to make that claim in the first instance. We've only got one horizon. I'm done.
I was going to say too, because they'll jump between this and placing the tangent at their feet in the celestial sphere model. But you know that the celestial sphere model has a horizon in it where the sky and ground meet. So they're basically asserting that a straight line can be tangent to a sphere at 3 points, and that's just not possible.
Any evidence the distance?
Did you wait?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
go on. Feel free.
Did you say that there was a horizon in the celestial sphere model?
Not exactly.
Yes, there is.
There's a baseline. Sorry, my bad, John. He was asking you, not me. Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Can you explain?
There's a point where the celestial sphere meets the flat Earth in the celestial sphere model.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
But there isn't, for the reasons that Arwen gave earlier. It's Muppet Vision.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's horizon in name only. They use horizon, horizontal, and then horizon again, all to mean similar things when they're not. They're category errors.
Right. What you have in that sphere model, the celestial sphere model, is a horizontal baseline. Now, you can have the edge of your periphery in terms of what you can view in that model, but it's represented in Muppet Vision, isn't it? It's an orthographic model.
Right, but in most orthographic models, they're not trying to demonstrate the sky either, you know. I'm just saying that there is a horizon in the celestial sphere model.
Where's that horizon?
Where the land and sky meet.
Right, where we
In that
perceive
model.
it. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, but
Chocolate. Eli, go ahead.
I no, but that's in reality. So in the in the celestial sphere model, where you're in orthographic view, what is the horizon described as in numerical values? How is that derived?
It's not. It's just used as a flat baseline.
0 degrees, John.
Oh, so it's just the plane already. There is no horizon.
Right.
I said yesterday.
There is, because that's establishing your horizontal in reality. So when you're referencing your model to what you use, there is a reference, and it is not just you correlating with it. You're going to be using it to map out your position. So it's not the right word to say it just correlates with the horizontal baseline you establish with your horizon. And correct, it can be labelled as such, and is labelled as horizon. There's many different horizons in name only.
Okay, I understand that. Right, horizon is really your horizontal. Right.
Well, yes, exactly. Your horizon really is your horizontal, but it's claimed to be Earth curved, a physical limitation to your view. That's what the horizon's claimed to be if you're a baller. If you're a sphere Earth believer, that's Earth curve. So while we're describing the mapping and locating of your position by way of the heavens and the lights in them, that requires a horizontal baseline, and you can acquire that with the horizon, and you can transpose that onto a model that uses Muppet Vision and places you at the centre with a horizontal baseline that's correlated with the horizon that you measured to measure it up with the map that you've got. So, you know, that's how it works until you introduce a geometric limitation to your view at the horizon, because that's Earth curve. Ergo, Earth curve doesn't work with navigation. The horizon's still used with navigation, and you can call a parallel to your position in the sky a type of horizon. It isn't, but you can call it that. It doesn't alter the fact that in physical reality, what you're acquiring from the horizon, what you're using the horizon for with your tool, and how that's then transposed into finding your position, is all done flat and all done with a horizontal baseline. Completely ballsed up if you think the horizon's Earth curve. It isn't.
We don't necessarily use the horizon in celestial navigation. We have a flat baseline. If we're using a sextant at sea, that's when we use the horizon, and we're only using it to define a level, to define provide a parallel line to the flat baseline, knowing that as long as it's parallel to the baseline, the angle measurements will meet up irrespective of our height. So we don't specifically use the horizon for anything. It's just an optical tool for leveling the sextant.
Yeah. The sensible horizon, you mean? Yeah, you can call what you've just detailed in terms of a process. You can give that a name as a horizon, though, can't you? And they do. There's hundreds. Not hundreds, that's an exaggeration.
Where you're using it and what you're using it for seems to be even though it's the same point of this.
It's there to establish an ID.
Yeah, and the ground, which presents as a horizontal baseline to reference with all of this stuff, matches up if you do this process and, I don't know, use a bubble sextant in the air and then call what you're establishing as a horizontal plane parallel to the ground that doesn't exist at all, it's in the air. But the fact that it's parallel with the ground is all that matters.
Exactly. So
I got
a good one, 10th, isn't it? Because that demonstrates the point. As long as we attain a plane that is parallel to the surface, then we can move on. And in the case of a bubble sextant, the horizon doesn't come into it. It's not mentioned because we've already got our flat parallel line to the surface. So we don't need to use the horizon, so we don't reference it.
Yeah,
the only time we do reference is for attaining a level. That's why we use it.
Yeah, that picture that you just put up, Nathan, that will show you the sensible horizon at the eye height of the observer. And that's using a bubble sextant so that you have your horizontal with a bubble, no need for dip correction. And then when you're at sea using the Earth's horizon, the height that your eyes are above the sea level would make that bottom parallel straight line, that plane that you see under the sensible horizon. So to establish an ID, just like Adam said.
Well, what I was going to say is the celestial sphere model doesn't make any allowance for the distance to the horizon. So
it's infinite.
There's no distances in. Sorry.
It's not even infinite, is it, John? It's just arbitrary. It's not.
Right. It's just a place where the land and sky meet in that model.
It could be 500 miles. It could be 3,000 miles. It could be all of 90, 5,400 miles. It has to have a flat baseline.
Well, depending on your equipment that you're viewing it with, it's all of the above, depending on the circumstances. As an example, right, if you take the Black Swan, you're looking out at oil rigs, and the horizon is beyond them. Okay, fine, we all understand. We've all seen the picture of the Black Swan. If you haven't, go and check it out. Either way, if you're actually stood at the beach and you just look out at the horizon, you can't even see the oil rigs. You can see the horizon, but your eye isn't good enough to resolve that speck in the distance. So as far as you're concerned, there's no oil rigs, there's nothing, right? There's your horizon and that's what you see. Now you pick up a little zoom camera, just a little bit more than your eyes can do. Now let's go the other way. You pick up an iPhone and the island that you could see in the foreground, before the horizon, that's gone. Why? Well, because it's got a smaller aperture. So it's resolving even less. so you get less out of it. So you're seeing less. So you look at your picture in your phone and you go, why can't I see that stuff that I could see before? Yeah, because it's got a smaller aperture. The converse, you go the other way, you get a super zoom camera, and you can see the people showering on the bloody oil rig. Right? Why? Because it's got a much bigger aperture. Okay. So you've moved the horizon in all three of those different circumstances just by changing the aperture on a clear day. So where's the horizon? Well, it's probably about 3 or 4 miles with my eyes. No. Check it out with my iPhone. It's only at 2, maybe even 1 mile. Well, check it out if I get my P900 out. It's beyond 10. Yeah. So
where's the horizon is the good answer to that is it's in the eye. It's in the lens. And those three examples exemplify that. The horizon's in the lens. It's a limitation.
Well, the biggest confusion for the Globers is the GP, right? The Almanac gives you the GP on the circuit across all the latitude and longitude lines. a certain star formation is going to follow a specific latitude. It's going to constantly go in that circuit. They know where the GP is directly underneath that star. So when you know the GP and you see that star and your angle and your north, south, east, and west, you know exactly which direction you are from the island that's right underneath that star.
Yeah, only possible on a flat plane.
But they
I
overlook the
just think it's
GP and the almanac. The almanac is ground position where the surface is, where that star would be if you look straight up.
Yep.
That's what exposes them every time they don't every time they want to do these tricks with Polaris and all that. I'm like, well, what's Greenwich time about? Like, how do we get the angles from where from? Like, what's the process? And then you walk through the process, a whole bunch of elevation angle measurements or zenith measurements, times taken, and all of this has what to do with the sphere exactly when? When does that come in?
It doesn't.
Almost like with Andrew Thomas Young, it comes in later, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Well,
I mean,
Zanuck,
it can't
Zanuck
because
may,
it
I'm
can't
sorry.
without violating the original origin of the measurement and the celestial sphere model that you're actually using when you plonk down those flat Earth angle measurements to get your position. So when does it transpose onto a sphere? After you're home, after you've figured out where you are and you're moving on with your journey. That's when.
Well, didn't Zanuck agree
That's
with Andrew?
hilarious.
Didn't Zanuck agree with Andrew Thomas Young, as Eli is saying, that yeah, you got to start with the flat plane first, and then you make adjustments. That's what Zanuck said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of how you move on, well, they get the angle from a flat plane and then they insert it into complicated maths and make it work with a tangent point to a sphere that isn't the ground. And they've made it very clear isn't the ground. So it doesn't even work with a sphere.
No, that's why they pre-assume.
Natural.
That's why they pre-assume the center, which is the equatorial plane, where they can achieve an angle from a plane, a disk. Well, they can never get it from the surface, but that's where the sextant is. So if the sextant is being used at the surface and it's working, then the surface is the plane, not the presupposed center of a dingleberry that doesn't exist, that you draw under all of those tangent planes that you put on the surface to say, well, we're getting the angle from this.
It's a category error there. Because the celestial sphere is an azimuthal projection that you cut in half. The center of that projection is at the base of your feet. You don't use the bottom half.
That's correct. So it's, again...
That's the whole thing that they miss, is cutting the box in half. You're only using the half that you need, where the freaking stars are, to the plane that you created, so that you know how far away you are from the latitude and longitude of where that star is going to be directly over at a specific time. So you know where the heck you're at.
Exactly. That projection is there's more to meet the eye with the azimuthal equidistant projection, because most people assume that it's that one map, when in reality that's just a North Pole centric azimuthal equidistant projection. That is to say that you're projecting out the map from you at the centre, and you can do it from anywhere. So I think there's a picture of JFK on Air Force One with Texas as the centre point of an azimuthal equidistant projection. And just rather than the North Pole being in the middle, Texas is in the middle. And it's basically what you've just described with your distance and angle measurements to any position from Texas, out with your perspective view from there to where you can see the edges of, in terms of where the stars would represent where they'd be over until they hit about 15 degrees and become useless to measure. Well, 15 degrees from what? The flat plane you'll measure them on. But it's still just a projection. So my introduction to that was somebody pointing out, I don't know, 7 years ago, that there's multiple versions of the azimuthal equidistant map. And I found very quickly a South Pole-centric one. And then you find there's all sorts of different versions. Then you realize that it's not actually that it's necessarily just a map. You can make a map from it. It's a system of projection from your location. And you can do it from anywhere you like. So established is it at mapping out a flat plane from your position to the perspective view of the stars from that position, that you can map out a map anywhere and it'll work.
On screen.
Amazing. Oh, really? Oh, cool. What is it on screen?
Yeah.
The JFK Air Force One map.
Oh, hold on, AI. You're breaking up for a start, but
Just on screen is what you just described. So
These
as in
it's all the parallel planes.
can't hear me telling him he's breaking up. If you can hear me, AI, you're breaking up. I don't know if you want to drop and rejoin. Yes. There we go. Good enough. Let's see if I can make it a bit bigger for the audience's benefit. Just bear with me a second. There we go. Okay. You get the general idea. It's tiny. You've not got a better picture.
That's amazing. If you've been following along for this long, I would assess that this show is a very, very good show to share with loved ones. This first 36 minutes has been jam-packed with all of the main reasons the Earth is not a globe, and it's been done so eloquently. I really appreciate the show, guys. Love it.
I'd like to thank my mother, the Academy, all of my friends and family. I couldn't have done it without any of them. Mostly I want to thank Adam for this on-screen representation that we were just talking about. I was going to make a gag because it wasn't at the moment. But there we go. There we go. You can see it with arrows pointing at it really clearly now. Adam hasn't done this. He's found someone on the internet that's obviously posted this and gone, look here with this arrow.
These are two very famous flat earthers. Look, there's Chippy the Chipmunk.
Okie dokie. Let's move on.
Well, before we move on, can an elevation angle ever be achieved with a curved baseline?
No, it cannot. An angle's
But
two
that
straight
ends it right
lines.
there. That ends it right there. And then remember when we first started this journey, and they would come on and say, don't say 90. Why are people who are interested in the truth telling us not to say 90 when all the celestial navigation books mention it to nausea, that you got to minus the elevation angle from 90? What's a 90 if it's not a right angle?
It is a right angle.
You
that
have a
won't work
right
with a
angle
curve.
from a curved baseline.
Yeah, that won't work. As shown
Okay.
by Alberuni
They're
when he
trying to-
measured the height of the mountain.
They're trying to.
Shout out to Mike 808 for the super chat. Thank you. Go ahead. Keep calling you chocolate. Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, they're trying to confuse people by telling people, no, you're actually subtracting from your zenith. There is no 90-degree all the way out to the GP and all this. It's really disgusting to see them do, you know? Because I don't know who's listening at those times, but just for them to be doing that is real slimy.
Well,
Zanuck.
when you use a bubble sextant, there is no dip correction because you're using the bubble to establish horizontal, and it is using the observer's zenith, which is creating a 90 to that horizontal called the sensible horizon, the eye line of the bubble sextant. So the sextant with the bubble is held at the eye of the observer, not at his feet, and it's showing a horizontal because the bubble is in the middle, which gives him a 90. So he's getting a 90 there, and he just doesn't do dip correction. When he's at sea, you can't use a bubble sextant because the ship is tossing, but you don't even go that way. You shoot the horizon. Then you take dip correction to get your eyeballs to the surface of the water, as we've read many times. Now you got your 90 using the Earth's surface. And then you minus that elevation angle from 90 to get the co-altitude, which gives you the zenith angle, which the bubble sextant gives you automatically. But using the Mariner sextant citing the Earth's horizon, it's a two-step process. Same answer, two-step process. Second one, proving the Earth is flat.
we move on? Any more on elevation angle measurements or navigation across the flat plane? No. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all the fundy believers in a sky vacuum known as outer space?
Well, here we go, denying the necessary antecedent to pressure in the first place, which is containment and gas molecules bouncing off the walls of a container.
Now they believe in
I
the
was just gonna
gradient.
say you killed it with the word antecedent.
Now they believe in the gradient, and they believe that a super thick, comparatively thick layer of gas pressure can sit to some point in space versus a giant amount of volume of extremely low pressure. That's what they think is possible, yet they can never demonstrate a gradient that is like that ever.
Don't they need a container to demonstrate a gradient, Arwen?
I had one this morning on
Yes.
one of on the stream that I put out in the mornings. I may drop that because it doesn't get a great number of people watching them. That said, the few people do watch them after the fact, but only as many people as watch the old archived shows anyway. So I may drop that morning show unless I get a huge number of objections when I've said it now. In any event, I was monitoring it this morning. It's mainly for me. I want to watch it in the mornings. That was the reason why I started publishing them. Anyway, I digress. Someone was in the chat stream this morning saying that the gas, quote, hugs the Earth. Hugs the Earth. That's a new one on me. Gas is now hugging Earth. It's giving it a good old cuddle.
Aw, that's so cute.
Isn't it just? Unbonded. Yeah, no, those aren't words that if you're a commitment phobe, you're going to like the sound of.
So is there a new category, hugging law?
It's
Gas hugging law?
unbonded. Unbonded. It's not hugging anybody. Yeah? It's on its own. It's like each gas is its own entity. They're all individual. On their own. Unbonded,
You know what?
alone.
You know what they'll say?
They'll say no gas particles on an island.
Nope, not even. I'm talking about the really absurd, like I was dealing with over the weekend. Yeah, they'll say, but when you have a bonded pair of cats, they're not attached.
Sorry, cats.
Yeah,
Are you talking about mating
they'll be dead
cats?
serious too.
Mating cats, are you talking about?
hmm And then you have a bonded pair that you adopt. You can't adopt one without the other because they're inseparable.
Yeah.
They do realize.
You know,
Bruh.
it would be
Sorry,
a
are
real
these- are
like,
these
what the hell does this have to do with
Siamese
anything?
cats?
It's a
Sorry.
major.
Just to be clear, are these Siamese cats, as in they're physically bonded together, or
No,
you know,
no, they're
with somebody with two upper limbs could definitely achieve the separation, sort of thing?
no, they're not actually bonded together. But you see, Nathan, I just showed you things that are bonded together that aren't literally bonded together. So why are you lying to your audience, Nathan?
So you showed me things that were unbonded. That's fantastic. Cats. I mean, it's a new one on me. I've got to be honest, Eli. But if you want cats as this example, fine. Shout out to Godzilla37. In school, Phil was so sure he was a wizard, wearing a pointed hat and every day until his only friend pointed out that hat said a dunce on it. He never recovered. Okay.
What they were doing there is they're trying to get you to think they're reifying love into a physical bond is what they're doing.
That's a $13 ad hom right there. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla.
You know, because literally, I said that you couldn't possibly. The problem is, you kind of don't have enough information to determine something if you've used only one of your five senses, with the caveat that you can use one sense if you've experienced it with multiple senses already.
I find with caviar,
I've already got a
like smelling coffee. Like you've seen it and you've mixed it in. You know what's going on there. So when you smell it, you know it's like, oh, that's coffee. And then they said, well, there's actually 7 senses. More than that. And this is what I mean by, like, they'll deadass just be super ridiculous instead of appreciating that, yeah, you're right. I can't do something like look at the sky and determine anything
Well,
What do
I
they claim
already
are
have a
the
problem.
about the sky.
what are the 6th and 7th sense?
All I know, I don't know. All I know is the dude said you can one of the senses is seeing the horizon, and the other sense is temperature, which is affecting the horizon. And I said, yeah, man, I'm out. I'm not coming back, fam, because you moderators aren't like, this is ridiculous now.
I have a problem with the whole statement. It's incomplete. We all know when it rains, it's raining dogs and cats. So why are the dogs left out of this?
Did he assert temperature was a sense?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had that
man.
too.
Yeah, man.
That's ridiculous.
I know, man. This is what happens when you hit them with like the arguments or logic that with rhetoric that they haven't dealt with before. Like, remember when the Black Swan first came out and Zanuck was like, there's 2 horizons. You can see them right there. Like, the darker water right there, and then the horizon right there back there. Yeah, that when they first deal with an issue, they're not really that good on their toes. That's how a
hilarious.
liar
That's
sounds.
when they're at their funniest, actually.
I've lost track
So
of where
no
we
one
are in
got my
housekeeping.
cats and dogs statement.
Sorry, you wanted more recognition for your cats and dogs reign.
Well, maybe you'll get it later.
I just thought it was a bit of a rough joke.
Very good. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Define scientific.
Establishment of cause and effect relationships by systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis.
Ooh, that's going to be tough. Right,
The
because it's
answer
kind
is
of
no.
gravity
There's
is
plenty
an
of mathematics.
colloquial thing. Gravity is an
Well-
elusive colloquial thing, so yeah, they don't really know what it is. They have a rough idea of what to associate with gravity, but they don't actually know what it is. Like, not even the experts.
So based on what Nathan said, do we have that? No, I can't go back in history and find where there was a valid hypothesis that could be tested to substantiate the claim that gravity is a thing, a phenomenon. So there you go.
What's the current definition of it?
Current definition is the bending of space-time.
Sorry, gravity, the causal phenomenon. My bad.
No, that's the effect. The effect of gravity is the bending of space-time. The cause is the uneven distribution
No, I mean,
of mass.
sorry, before you said that.
Say again?
I'm sorry, I meant before you said that, I was correcting myself. I guess it was just bad timing. Back when it was mass attracting mass, it's like you see things drop. That's the effect that causes gravity. But anyway, no, you move beyond that.
Yeah, right. You're
still
correcting
taught,
your last
though.
statement, the one before.
It's still
Gotcha.
taught mass attracting mass.
No, it isn't. That's 107 years out of date.
Despite that, it's still being taught in schools.
Doesn't matter.
In
that
school, I still had a demonstration of why mass supposedly attracts mass. So it is
It's
still
a demo.
taught,
Oh,
despite.
now this has got juicy. What was that?
Hmm?
You said you had
Sorry?
a demo.
Yes. Yeah, in school, one time, a guy, I think from NASA actually, came over and showed like this metal contraption. It wasn't a Cavendish situation, something else. And then just like, oh, look, see, when I move this scale over here under this ball, oh, it measures like an attraction somehow. But I couldn't like tinker with it, and immediately it looked like, yeah, but that's metal, so it's probably some kind of a magnet. But I wasn't supposed to touch it. So
Nathan,
it was all just a setup, but it is still being taught. Like, and that was I think in '94 or something.
Nathan, you
So-
were about to go through it. So the uneven distribution of mass causes what?
The bending of space-time, or the bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space.
And how do they know that?
No, it's just a mathematical description. There's nothing to know. It's not a physical description of anything that's occurring. It's a description in a mathematical geometry known as pseudo-force space.
What's force space?
Length, breadth, depth, and time.
What's time?
A concept.
How do you bend the concept?
You don't.
You
So
only
you
bend
you
the
bend the
concept
concept.
when it's part of a dimension.
You bend the concept conceptually.
Yes, that's right.
I took, when he asked me how do you bend, correct me if I'm wrong, I took that to mean how do you physically interact and perform the action of bending time. Was that what you actually meant, as opposed to how you think about it conceptually, as Chocolate's retorted with?
Yes.
Yeah, physically you don't bend it, though. I mean, bending, dilating, those things to me describe physical actions. My eye can dilate. A ruler can bend. Time can do neither. But it's described in pseudo-Riemannian for space-time as bending and dilating and warping.
Right. So since there is not a physical component to it and is purely conceptual, then you can't interact with it physically. You can only interact with it conceptually.
Correct. That might be a tricky word by you, Armin. Maybe not. I'll interact. What do you mean by interact? I know what interact means. Do you know what interact means?
Well, you could interact with the mind.
Wouldn't it be like the kid telling Neo that there is no spoon?
Hold on, let's just get to the bottom of this, Chocolate.
It's the same shit.
Hold on. Let's just get to the bottom of what Arwin's doing. He might not be doing anything. He might just accidentally have used a word he didn't mean. Inter, what does inter mean? Like interplay? What's action? What does action mean? As in interact?
Inter is just like a cross connection.
Ah, we covered that.
And
What's the
action.
act bit? What's action? Act. It's describing
well,
interplay.
Action requires a consciousness to, act, to decide and then do something.
Right, but there's got to be an interplay between another thing. Right, so to interact with time, yeah, that implies some physical interaction. So in terms of when you describe mono, singular, you thinking about it, conceptualizing, there's no interplay.
But we're not actually interacting with the time.
Well, that's the word you used. That's my point.
Hold on. We're
That's my
interacting
point.
with the concept of time.
Right, you're not. There's no interplay. If it's singular, if you're just considering it, even if you're discussing it, that's not an
Well, there
interplay.
is.
That's a dialogue.
No, it can also apply to information, which is a physically proven substance.
Yeah, but your conceptualization of it could be described as an internal dialogue, as in you discussing it with yourself, considering it, conceptualizing it. But the word I took objection with was the interactive bit, the interplay that you don't actually have in physical terms. Now, I don't think you did it intentionally. I laboured it just because that's what the show's about, right? It's the semantics,
Are you
the
saying
words
that
have
you
meaning.
can't interact with something that you are imagining or dreaming? Is that not an interaction internally?
No, I just covered that. That's an internal dialogue, not an interaction.
I think this is semantical. We would
Yeah,
have to
it
get
is
into the
semantical. Words have
logical
meanings.
because I disagree.
Yeah, words have meanings. Interaction was just a poor choice of words. That's all. Just say okay.
I might agree with Arwin.
Yeah, there you go.
Arwin, what do you mean?
Elijah agrees.
The hell?
I'm right.
You might agree with
No,
Arwin.
I mean,
Are we all conceptually bending a spoon that's not there? What are we talking about?
okay, look. Okay, look.
No, but it does
synonyms.
exist.
Synonyms.
It exists conceptually within our mind
God.
where we interact with it.
Hold on.
On the
He's got synonyms. I
So
think
no
that's much
physical
more
interaction.
important. Go ahead.
All right, synonym, interplay. I do play in my dreams.
We don't need
Interchange,
that.
interact.
No need.
Yeah, all right, all right. Interchange, interactivity, interconnection, interlinkage. Let's see if they're reciprocity, exchange, reaction, relationship, interrelation, interrelatedness, interdependence, association, link, correspondence.
Right.
Interaction doesn't mean it's physical interaction.
Hold on. Say again.
Interaction does not mean it's a physical interaction.
It does in this instance. We're talking about how we can bend or dilate time.
Well, then you would need to prove time's physical first before it can be a physical interaction.
Right. And in that context, when Arwin used the word interact, I objected contextually correctly. Let's just get that straight, John. Shout out to Godzilla37.
I agree.
Yeah, it is semantics.
No,
Me too. I'm jumping
you are
ship.
just emphasizing the more physical, tangible element to it.
Yeah, I
right?
knew it.
And
See, I knew
but
it.
hold on, there's also the other side of the word. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that.
Yeah, but that's what you were weaseling in. I suspected you knew the word. I knew it. I knew you were trying to weasel it in. I didn't. I even defended you, going, I don't think you've done it intentionally. Yeah, you bloody had. Either way, or you've now you figured out the word's meaning. You've
intentionally. I
decided
just don't always know ahead of time.
Because this is kind of nonsensical, I think Eli's word was the best, interplay. Because there is no physicality, but I'm looking at a reciprocal relationship, action or influence. He uses an example, the interplay of plot and character. That's why I think it's better, because there is no real physical thing, but apparently one could affect the other. So I would suggest they have an interplay, but they couldn't have an interaction.
All right. Well, I would agree to the use of that word.
I really don't know. The claim of physicality is. I've lost my train of thought there, my summation. But
well, you can get it back. Get it back while I shout out Godzilla37. If you ever fail at your YouTube career, Nathan, you can be a butcher. Just ask my super chats. You're good at it. Saying I ruined his super chats by reading that.
Yo, Godzilla is the man.
Thank you so much, Godzilla. I know I do appreciate the support. You can abuse me all you like with money.
Look, it's back. So the point I make is, but the claim in of itself is a physical. Yeah, mass distributes. Mass affects the distribution of the time, which affects the way in which the mass behaves. It's having a physical effect in their claim. So how is this thing, which isn't physical, interacting, or is it even? But I'm sure within their claim, it's having a physical effect. It moves. It creates the effects of gravity, doesn't it? Which has an effect on mass, they're claiming. So it has to have an interaction, is what I was going to say.
Thank you, Adam. Exactly. We're not just
I'm
sitting
sorry.
around. We're not just sitting around defining words for the sake of it. We're actually doing it within the context of the question, which is any scientific evidence of gravity. And the only way you can even imply such evidence is through semantics. And, whether or not Arwin did it intentionally before with forethought or after he decided, no, actually, that was quite useful to wangle in the physicality just with one word. But even if he had or hadn't, it doesn't matter. Discussing the semantics of it within the context is how we debate here. That's what we're up against, isn't it? Because if you get down to the brass tacks of it, there is no physical interplay. That's the bottom line here. But do we argue about there being an interplay in physical reality with this thing called gravity? Yeah, we do, definitely. So the semantics of the somebody who might have at a, I don't want to say subconscious level, but at some level recognised that there isn't actually this claim to be force, but they still want to believe in the globe Earth, i.e. the anti-flat earthers we debate about. All they have is the semantics of how they can weasel in a non-force force that you can think of as a force because I give you permission. That's what we've got to do.
Can
we
I
have
please?
to do this.
No, Arwin, hang on.
No, but this is direct.
You've had your shot at it. Come on, man.
No, I want to round it out.
Yeah, I want to round it out. Nathan, mass attracts mass was Newton, but in 1915 they brought time in it. Why did they need to throw Newton under the bus and bring this concept time into it? Can you give us some background?
Because then you don't have anything claimed to be in the physical realm. You take it from the physical, which can easily be debunked. Mass is not attracting mass, and we can show that with gas. So take it out of the physical and take it into the conceptual. I suspect that, if nothing else, if we continue in a heliocentric paradigm run by the church, as we have done for a very long time, after we're all dead and buried, what the only change that we might influence is that they'll have to do something similar with Coriolis effect. That's my only conclusion. The reason it's so wrapped up in doublespeak nonsense and contradictions in the citations for it is because it has to be. It's a claim to be globe Earth bearing effect, i.e. a physical demonstrable effect in reality that you can go out and test for yourself. There's claimed to be a globe-based Coriolis effect, as we term beneath things that aren't attached. They exhibit drift according to the claim. Well, that's something that was similar 107 years ago to the physical claims of Cavendish and alike of a mass attracting another mass, which simply isn't the case. So when you have a debunkable physical reality claimed to be attached to your conceptual globe Earth, you need to take that away from the physical and testable and put it into the conceptual, which is why I suspect that happened with gravity, and why I suspect that may very well be a short-lived celebration from me in terms of, wow, look, we're really getting some ground, gaining ground with Coriolis, because it doesn't happen. And, you know, our convoluted arguments about it, now they're getting more concise, will just result in a reaction that has to take Coriolis effect into the conceptual also. How they do that, who knows? But that might be the only actual impact we ever make as flat earthers in our time here. Coriolis is now new Coriolis with Fizz.
Owen, your quote's got the okie doke in it.
Dude, can I please do it myself? I know.
Well,
I was going to make the point.
Yeah,
Look, we were both right.
Can you calm down?
We were both right.
Owen.
Yeah, Arwin, I'm trying to move on. Any single viable hypothesis? No,
Dude,
go ahead, Arwin.
what is this?
I'm
Come
only
on.
joking. Go ahead.
I was just saying we were both right equally, right? So I took the word in the more general meaning, and then it's exactly what I said it was. That's what I was emphasizing. But then there's this special headline here, physics, and in that definition, it is apparently exactly like what Nathan said. It is really emphasizing a physical interaction. So that is just like hilarious. So we were both equally right.
No, we weren't. No, we were not equally right. No, because our discussion was hyper-specific. Your colloquial general use doesn't get you off the hook and make you right. That's why I challenged it. Colloquially, yeah, you were right. But why would it require a challenge at all from me? The fact that the challenge proved to be right just shows how wrong you were.
Just chocolate.
No.
If you have a look at the okie doke, can you see it? Owen, can you just scroll it a little bit across so I can read it? Look, a particular way
What, in
which
physics, you mean?
matter, fields, and atomic and subatomic particles affect one another, e.g., through gravitation or electromagnetism. Now, we know electromagnetism, but look, they've just chunked this gravitation in to make out it's having a physics effect, but there's no evidence for this, the gravitation side.
Yeah, I skipped on that part because then I would just only me would be right. But I'm giving it to you, right?
You're so generous.
Yes, I am. No, but
How
the
kind.
point was because it is a pure concept. It is not actually physics related, pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's why I drew it into the non-physics field where my interpretation of the word interaction was correct. It's just when you actually claim it is physics related, which it isn't because it's purely mathematical and conceptual, then you would have a point. But it isn't.
I totally understand, and you are correct, but that is the very essence of why I highlighted that particular word and its usage. Yeah. Okay, if you weren't reasonable, which you are, and you were the baller doing that, you could argue that vehemently, couldn't you, Arwin? Your colloquial use of it being correct, and you could probably define it. And I could bring up this citation, and you could argue all day about this aspect of how the colloquial use is correct, even though the discussion was hyper-specific, about the physical reality of bending time, which you can't.
I would end up getting funny muted for sure.
Is that an equivocation fallacy?
No, not in this context. It's just there's two different uses of the word.
Right. Isn't equivocation when you do have multiple uses of a word and the
yes, it is,
arguers.
but no, because I'm not doing it with both uses by me. Arwin's seen a definable use of the word, and as far as he's concerned, contextually, if we ignore the veil of the hyper-specific conversation we were having, he's right in its context. And I'm saying no, that potentially, now it might be with hindsight Arwin's realised to argue this, and I'm glad he has. It doesn't matter if it's after the fact he's recognised it. That is a useful route in for a fundy. And that's what I highlighted a second ago. I was like, this is what we do. And Arwin's like, it's just semantics. It's like, that's all they've got. They don't have any physical
But I
reality
mean-
to demonstrate this stuff with, so they will just use the semantics.
Right,
But I
I'm
was
not-
saying
I'm not
that the
using
glow,
it to prove the ball, though. I'm just want the freedom of the words because I like the dynamic of words. And
But that's the point, isn't it? It's a Socratic disagreement. We can't go past. To continue this discussion, we have got to define interaction in the context of the debate we're having. And as soon as we do, then there's no evidence to support its interaction.
so let me ask it this way. I'm thinking about a globe earther who is using interaction in the context of real when he will be explaining the mathematical not real. Wouldn't that be an equivocation fallacy?
Yes, precisely. Rather than it being a discussion.
That's what I meant.
Yes, that's right, and that's why we're discussing it. Yeah, and now I see why you're bringing it up. Yeah, it would be if it was weaponized and I did the okie doke back and forth between two as an anti-flat earther in debate with you. Why is it I keep calling you? It's because last week you sounded really deep. Eli, you don't today. You don't sound anything like chocolate. Anyway, yeah, that is precisely why I've highlighted it and why we've discussed it at this length. There may be people in the audience who are like, why are they discussing this? Why are they going to the nth degree with this? Well, yeah, because that's the tools they have, the equivocation they would use. But now we've pulled it apart. Hopefully, it will cement itself in every member of the panel's mind when it happens.
right, well, the next time interaction is brought up and argued by a baller, I will know. Like, oh, you mean within physics, or you mean in general? Let's be specific here, right?
Absolutely.
So I learned something new today.
There was a new word in the list that I didn't hear before, Eli. Where's the similes? Because one of the words in about halfway through was a great word that I'd never heard before.
It's like all of the emulators where you have like 1,000 different Snake games, 1,000 different Tetrises. It's like, yeah, but the function is the same.
What was that list of similes you had a second ago?
You want me to read them out again?
Can you? Because there was one word that I'd never heard before.
It came from. Okay.
I made a mental note to ask you once all of this.
So I just
wrapped
typed
up.
in interaction synonym from. So from Oxford. Interplay, interchange, interactivity, interlinkage, reciprocity.
That's the one. Reciprocity.
Reciprocation.
Reciprocity. That's a new word on me.
Yeah, a lot of girls were using that in the '90s when Lauryn Hill came out. You know. Okay.
So what's it mean? Don't say interplay.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. R-E.
I'm presenting it.
Yes.
Do you want to read it out? Hold on, Eli. Do you want to read it out, Arwin?
All right. The practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, especially privileges granted by one country or organization to another.
Yes, it's like a reciprocal agreement, isn't it? So it relates. There's a
Right.
reciprocity between these two groups.
Right. It's like the method of reciprocation.
Agree.
I
But that's
see.
not an interaction. That's just a mutual benefit. It doesn't necessarily.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
you
more
would.
like diplomacy. It's
Yeah.
a diplomacy related word.
So could you describe with the word reciprocity how Danny Faulkner has interacted with the anti-flat earthers?
Yeah.
To attack
if
us?
you would, yeah. There is a reciprocity between anti-flat earthers to never define the horizon, and the mutual benefit is it allows them to keep going in circular arguments.
Very good. Just so we're just not, like I said, we weren't doing earlier, just sitting around defining words. And here I am asking you to just define a word because I found it interesting. But there we go. It links nicely back into Flat Earth like it all should, which is good. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. Probably never.
One last housekeeping question. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No, sorry. I was on
It's
mute.
right. Oh,
I was just gonna say that it's funny. I'm realizing that none of these are actually addressed. That's the crazy part. If you think about it, audience. What was the last one you just read out? Before the last one.
I didn't. You were reading them.
No. I mean the before you. But
Any
the one that
any single viable hypothesis from
Right,
any
right.
of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, and astrophysics.
Oh, I don't read them.
right.
I just know them.
So the appropriate answer is, if you were a baller, here's a hypothesis right here. They've never said that. Just think about that, audience. Ask someone this question and see if they can Google it for you or whatever it is that they need to do. They won't do it. Trust me, I know.
Well, there's a reason it's a housekeeping question. There isn't one. Yeah, and as we say, if they did put one together, fundamentally, it's going to require R, which will destroy it. But could they even put it into science? Not really.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the point of recognition you want from them. That's just denied there. That this isn't a field for science.
Yeah, that's the bottom line that Eli thinks, stressing that there is no scientific evidence of gravity whatsoever. So asking for any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics is a way of asking them to just give a simple answer. Here's a hypothesis. Have they ever done it? No, they haven't. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streamed, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button after the fact, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
I'm just trying to see if Nathan and the Discord are there so everyone can hear.
Yeah, what?
That I, one of you, the people, have spotted my very own UFO. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.
Wowee.
Now, wait a minute. Now that I'm saying it, I feel like we did talk about this briefly on the show.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Neil, you're late.
I talked about sitting in the hot tub and watching things fly around in the sky, and compared it to Mark Sargent describing it with infrared goggles, but in a less light polluted area.
Right.
But yeah, go on. Tell us all about it.
Well, no. So I was watching the so-called planetary alignment, and it was interesting because this light was somewhere above the moon, which was at like 35-ish, 40 degrees, and then it was like at some degree higher, and it's making a diagonal past the moon down towards the horizon to the east. Obviously, everything is moving to the west, but ever so slowly. You know how the sun rises and how moon, how that whole process, the sky is just like slowly rotated. But this thing is moving like it was an aircraft, except it didn't look like one, which is why when my friend and I both spotted it, she said, "What planet is that?" I said, I don't know. Let me get my app out. And then we realized it's moving because in relation to the moon, you can see it moving. And we're like, oh, what's that? I mean, is that a plane? Nah, that's really high to be a plane, isn't it? Like, there's no blinking lights on it. Do blinking lights have to be on like aircrafts? Yes. Huh. Nah, it's a plane. It's a something. I just kept repeating that because I was like, it's not aliens. It's not. It's not. Not that I do think it's aliens at the end of the story, but I do know that it just wasn't a plane. So when it disappeared, you know what Dave Weiss, shout out to Dave Weiss, what he calls the deck of opacity, when you're watching a sunrise and you can see that cloudy looking band, that's purplish and pink, on the horizon. Well, it disappeared into that, going diagonally to the left. And then a few minutes later, it reappeared going diagonally up, but not in the same line that it had went down, because it never went above the degree that the moon was at. So it was definitely going in a different direction. And it was the most interesting thing I've ever seen in real life, next to boobs. So,
what shape was it? Thing, Eli, in 2012, I think it was, at the Olympics. I was just camping, similar thing. Feedback from this guy there. But this was a light that I'm seeing. And it was being followed by what I could see were they looked like helicopters the way they were moving. You could make that out. That's what I'd have guessed. And this light does this thing, and it moves around a bit, and the other light, the helicopter follow it, and then suddenly just whoosh, straight across the sea, just went as fast as look, and just left the other lights for dead. Never thought. To me, I'm just thinking military stuff, not. Because you say the planes have, commercial stuff, but military stuff doesn't have. And if you're doing stuff, you're not necessarily going to stick stuff on it. But they're weird stuff. The one thing you do say is, and like you say, that is not behaving. It's not behaving like a star. It looks too low to be a star. It's in the air. But what it isn't doing is behaving anything like an aircraft that you know. They're the only things I could say about it. I think would I have attributed it to aliens back then? Maybe not. 2012, probably not. I'm thinking no. You know what I mean? You do know it's not. It's not what you think. You observe aircraft and that behaving like they do. It was the speed that shocked me. Well, it just left the other things for dead. Just went.
Yep. But I think that's the you have a certain decorum with our heliocentric model and what we can do in the sky and all of this. So when you see something like that, and the only thing you can attribute it to is either the government doing some funny stuff, funny business, or aliens, which they like to play with and dangle in front of people. Even though there are people who are like, come on, aliens. But they kind of leave it open more, because they damn sure don't leave flat Earth open, right? But with aliens, they leave it open to the person to decide maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So when you see these aircrafts that nobody can account for, instead of people asking, what's the government doing all this funny stuff? People go, man, I seen a UFO, because a UFO is an unidentified flying object. But they've made you think of aliens when you hear the words or the letters UFO.
They don't leave it open. They sow that seed quite firmly, don't they, of alien life. I think it's whether it's our military or whether it's I mean, it could be Nazis, couldn't it, from Antarctica in a Nazi bell? Could be a million things. I think the interesting point is actually what you say, which is how the government leave it in your mind. It's not left open. It's purposely planted. It's aliens.
Yep. So you don't have any other scrutiny. I mean, what else can you do? I love this today's show, man. Super interesting. Super interesting. Very good listen for anybody who's trying to introduce someone to Flat Earth. I would highly suggest this episode.
Just to add to that, I've talked about it before. AWAR, who does a lot of the mud flood stuff, and he's done a little short video, I think last week, saying, look at the History Channel, look at, and they pump all this ancient alien stuff, and he's saying, look at the mud flooders and what's being drawn here. They're basically, the History Channel's doing a similar thing now and pumping this alternative technology. All of these things are being attributed to History Channel. It's being attributed to aliens. We're putting it down to ancient civilizations. None of it us. All of these diversions seem to defy the fact that we could have done great things in the past. We're never allowed to have achieved something. Historically, yeah, it's always given to us, whether it be aliens or ancient civilizations. It's not just us.
Yeah, and it's more likely that just if people get too smart, people who are in power lose power and have to do something about it. Sad world that we live in when you think about it in those terms. And like in The Wizard of Oz, when you get back to the Great Tower, and you pull back the curtain, it's just some old dude. Just some doddering old sod that wants to control everything and isn't happy with enough power and money that he's got. That's all it ever boils down to. And it's kind of a disappointment. Because you think you're going to pull back the curtain and see a round table with red hooded men, like in Eyes Wide Shut or something. And nah. It's just some dude. Just
like
some dude.
Accountant. The point of that sideways was it is always look for distractions. They're happy to give you falsehoods, aren't they? And the aliens or whatever. The alien stuff,
and it's funny.
It pumps the heliocentric agenda, doesn't it? And
yeah, because I could have never made. I would have never began speculating along these lines had I not, yet again, experienced something in reality. And that's what you guys, not you guys, but I'm talking to the audience still. Think about this: whenever you experience something that is odd in reality, something that doesn't make sense, it's likely because you had an image of what it should have looked like. For example, you have Comet Neowise or comets in general. I watched Hey Arnold. If you look at the Hey Arnold episode, which is an animated series on Nickelodeon, terrific music, by the way. Anyway, they depict Halley's Comet as something that is fleeting, that you'll only get to see every 60 or so years, and that it'll just be one moment. But in reality, Comet Neowise was, for lack of better term, rising with the sun and everything else every morning. Just like being able to see the alignment right now, you could see Comet Neowise for a good 2-3 months. Nothing like what they describe to me as reality. And once you see something like that, that is where you begin your journey. How's that? Let me look that up. That's how we all got here. Trust me. Go outside, put down your phone, and go look at some stuff in nature. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Failing that, kick back with an afternoon of Nickelodeon.
Nathan, are you insinuating that we should use another medium besides YouTube to entertain ourselves?
No, I am not in breach of the community guidelines in that regard, nor am I encouraging anybody leave this platform ever.
Just wanted to clarify.
I like how you remembered that particular rendition of one of the YouTube terms of service.
Hey, John, what's happening with Ruhif in the debate?
I don't know for sure. I've not checked after he sent me that novel, triggered novel that he sent. I don't think we're actually going to get to debate because he's not setting anything up.
What's the novel summary, if you can give it?
He has a straight line of sight to a refracted horizon, pretty much. Yes.
Join me at Geo's later.
I've got a little update I received from him this morning. I'll put it on screen. There appears to be a new challenge. It's say new. Same old challenge. Let me screen share. You see, what they're doing is, as always, is let's give them the miracle first that they can get the angle of a flat surface. You see here, so they're doing the same challenge. I've just seen this. I don't know who Broken Curves is. This is the copy I've got, so I'll read it. Okay, debate proposal. 72 hours before the debate, McToon provides 2 sets of sextant observations. That is angles to 3 stars, times at which they were taken, observers' height, etc. The solution to each set is recorded as a screenshot from Stellarium showing date, time, observer, location, elevation of each star. McToon publishes a hash for each solution so that you can see how close your position fix was to the solution.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm really sorry,
Adam.
Yeah.
Can you just go back a couple of sentences with what each party will be provided with?
Yeah, so McToon provides 2 sets of sextant observations. That is angles to 3 stars, times at which they were taken, observer height, etc.
The
solution,
the elevation to each star is what will be provided.
Yeah. So say you've got to go past the first bit that they can only do on a flat Earth.
Let's just labour that a little bit more. So they'll provide elevation angle measurements to stars. That'll be the angle from a flat baseline to the position in the sky. So that's the angle taken off a flat Earth will be provided for us to debate about the globe with. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's
okay. Yeah. So McToon will be providing these 2 flat Earth angles. So is McToon a flat Earther now?
Only assumption.
Can somebody just clarify this? At this point, from what I've just understood, and I realise there's more to read, but what I'm now listening to is a description of how we're going to use these flat Earth angles to do things with and debate about. Am I wrong in that? From this point forward, we are actually discussing how we move forward with these flat Earth angles that will be provided?
Yeah. What you can't do is discuss where the angles were obtained from. So they don't mention that. It's just that is angles to 3 stars, just not elevation, just angles. So we can't discuss clearly where they've come from. Like I said, they've got to move past that, be given that first miracle.
Oh, let's
So
just
on,
stop
there's
right
a-
there.
it's on the board.
Sorry. So what you're saying is that part of the terms and conditions of debating with them about a globe Earth is that we will be provided with flat Earth angles to debate about. I want to know what I'm trying to establish is it said that McToon will provide these angles, and you've said we won't be talking about where they came from. No, they came from a flat Earth, and McToon is providing them. So McToon understands, does he not, that these have come from a flat Earth? If he doesn't, that just needs pointing out to him. Or could it be that I've pointed out that to McToon on... Let me just correct. If I'm wrong on this, if I'm out by a couple, I'm sorry. I believe it's 87 times I've pointed that out to him so far. Me to him personally.
Well, I'm Broken Curves. That's who he's sending that to when he says Broken Curves. It's,
Thought it was you, but that's why I was confused when he said I've not heard of it.
well, I've not seen it yet. I've not checked my Discord. Like I said, after that novel he sent me, I've been uninterested in reading anything he sends. So it may be in my Discord, and I've just not looked at it.
You'll see the premises, look. Accept the angles, don't ask where they're from. Then, basically, do what they did when this first came out. Remember, they gave us a load of angles and said, where are we? They did it from like 1986 or something, so it was hard to... I didn't have that almanac, so I did it for the nearest year I could do, sent it them, which is all they're after. But what they're trying to do is this lower bit, where they're going to plot it on the charts, and what they're going to do is, oh look, they're globe charts. That's all they're going to say.
Well,
The grid system that you're plotting it on is a ball grid system, which is weak at best because, like I say, they're desperate. Look, this is how long has this been going on for now, and all they can do is just make this assumption, and whistle past the fact of where they're getting the angles for all of this to be done. For the flat grid model that we're going to use celestial navigation for, and then they're going to crab about the positioning system that they plot these things into. They're going to say it's a ball, and that's all they've got. But they've got to ignore the fact that the data they get is obtained from a flat Earth.
Right, and on top of that, hold on a second. On top of that, after they take the flat Earth elevation angle, then they're going to apply it in the flat Earth celestial sphere model to do these calculations. And that's really what I was going to hammer home in the debate. It's not going to be a debate. I'm just going to point that out.
That's the point, John. What debate is this? This isn't a debate. This is, can you go away and plot these points and work out a celestial navigation? So both parties go away and do it. Yeah, they come back and we prove celestial navigation works according to the way McToon's plotted his stuff into Stellarium. What does that prove?
Well, Stellarium's a flat Earth model. Stellarium is a flat Earth model.
I don't understand. And so where's the debate other than it's not a debate, it's a celestial navigation test.
Sorry, Neil,
They're playing games. Let me ask a fast question.
Go ahead, Neil.
McToon wrote a long paragraph because I seen it and I'm not wasting my time with it. Why don't he just come on the show? Nathan, you run the show the same time every day. Am I right? What's the problem here?
That is a question you could ask him. But ultimately speaking, I'm more concerned with the point that I raised, which is to say that Toon's going to be giving out flat Earth angle measurements. And I've pointed out to him on 87 occasions that that's a flat Earth angle measurement that he's going to be using. Therefore, he's measuring a flat Earth. Game over. I've pointed that out to him so many times, it's untrue. Why is he ignoring it, is my question. Why is he providing flat Earth angle measurements after it's been pointed out to him almost 100 times? Why is he doing that?
Because
He's
he
not
has
ready
no
to accept the
rebuttal.
flat Earth.
He has no rebuttal. What else can you do?
Ignore it 87 times? We'll call this 88.
It's not a debatable point. That's why he's not arguing with it. That's simple.
No, yeah, but my point is that he's still asking how a flat Earth angle works with a sphere. after 87 times in pointing out that his challenge, which this is basically his challenge, that he keeps going around saying, I've got 10k to offer anybody who can tell me how flat Earth elevation angle measurements work with a flat Earth. And I'll show you how these flat Earth elevation angle measurements work with a sphere. When they don't, the ground beneath the tangent line isn't the ground you're navigating in his demonstration of how flat Earth angles don't work with a sphere, because it isn't the ground you're using. You're using a tangent that meets the ground at a single point rather than navigating the actual flat surface you've just measured. So he's been told that 87 times. What's he doing? Is he dumb?
88.
I'm asking if he's mentally retarded. Is he mentally retarded?
No, Owen summed it up. He can't. He has to whistle past it. He can't deal with it. Because he has no rebuttal to that.
Sorry, everyone, stop a second. I don't think nobody listened to what you just said, John. Can you just make your point again that you made 30 seconds ago? Because you're saying there's no rebuttal, Adam.
It's not a debatable point. Of course, you have to get the angle from a flat plane.
Right. That's my point. So, given that it's not a debatable aspect and he has no retort, he has no response, because there isn't one, it's not debatable, he will be taking the angle from a flat plane. Why is he still going around asking how this taken from a flat plane angle works with a sphere and asking and challenging people to prove how a flat Earth angle works with a flat Earth? It's absurd.
Because continuing to ask the question makes it appear as though he has an argument. And just keep asking again and again, it just makes it seem like, oh, nobody's answered this question. Nobody's responded to this. Doesn't matter how many times you do. Doesn't matter if it's 88, 188. He's just going to keep asking and asking because he's never going to actually answer the question, which he already knows the answer to because he's already got the angles.
It's the original baller tactic, right? That's what they do with the boats going over the horizon, right? Just forget about it and do it over and over again.
Chocolate hit it right on the head, baby.
Well, I've seen lots of trolls posting, how come flat earthers are afraid of McToon's challenge? Well, we're not. He doesn't have one. But he keeps doing it because of what Chocolate said.
You did nail the... You did hit the nail on the head. Go.
Did that start with a conversation about UFOs?
No, I asked John, what's happening with the debate with Ruhif? How's that progressing?
He's not set anything up and made me aware of it yet. He may have, but to my knowledge at this moment, there's nothing that's been set up yet.
Well, based on what Adam shows in this text that's in front of us on the screen, it's back to the same old, which has been debunked already.
I say it's time to ignore them.
I already do that, Neil. I'm completely reactionary in that regard. I cover it because it's brought up on the show, and so long as it's on topic, how's that geometric horizon working out for you, buddy? That's on topic, right? So, great. But as for the interaction you guys have, it's a hard one for me to discuss because, on the one hand, I kind of frown upon it. But on the other hand, if you guys didn't do it, there'd be nothing to talk about, he says after a reasonably prolonged silence a few minutes ago.
Well, we could talk about space movies.
Well, you know, my only purpose in doing all of this was to show that there's not a debate. That was like that this is, we're not having a debate anymore, you know?
You know what? You want a good analogy for the anti-flat earthers? Go and watch Man vs. Bee on Netflix. That gives you a pretty good picture as to like what their mindset is at and their priorities and all that.
I liken them to, and only because of the formatting of their arguments, that Bellevue was emptied out, the crazies are out, and instead of capturing them and putting them back in for help, we're talking to them. Why are we talking?
As I just said, I'm glad that you do.
I don't. I mean, I like John's approach. I like John's approach a lot because it's not debatable. So they want to talk about it, then they're going to look like the crazies I just said they are, because it's not debatable.
Yeah, but what do you do when they just keep coming back with the same thing over and over again, trying to make themselves look like they're in the winning position?
We address them. We address them. We address them the way we have. And that's it.
But they're not listening.
You break their balls.
Why are you trying to
Neil.
save them, Neil?
All you got to do is break their balls.
What, you think
Let them see
victory?
what they did, get real, and then they're already in over their heads. So
We've
they're going to
achieved
double speak and all that.
We've achieved the victory when we won the point. We don't need to save them when they're past saving. You think they have to change their mind for us to win, Neil? No, they don't have to change their mind. Just stay crazy as you are.
No, that's not what I'm saying. With them saying this, other people are hearing it, and they're like, "Oh, why he's not taking the challenge?" So it's obvious they're affecting
Yeah.
other people.
That's why we
They're using this tactic of like, it's, you know what it is? It's like you'll say something valid, and then like one of them will be like, oh, silly flat earther. Yeah, you know what? There was a time that I legitimately, considered it, but we looked at all the evidence and yada yada yada, and then they'll just red herring into something else. That it'll be some point that is legitimate in itself. Well, no, actually, no, it won't be. But you get what I'm saying? Like they do give this air of, well, let me talk you down and condescend you, and then let me reestablish what everyone already has a bias toward.
It's
disgusting.
Neil, look at the win they're claiming. Their win is it's definitely a ball because some flat earthers won't do a calculation to prove nothing, right? Given flat earth angles taken from a flat plane, they won't engage in this competition. Therefore, we win. It's a ball. We don't need to go into the competition. That's their fakeness, isn't it? That's their okey doke to try and profess a win that we've not taken up the competition. We've read the rules and we've read what they're providing. They're providing flat Earth elevation angles. We've won. In their own competition, they tell us how much we've won. The thing they're going to use is taken from a flat plane. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good summary, Adam. And the fact that Nathan now 88 times has asked that question and it's being ignored is because it's not a debate anymore.
Yeah, there's no debatable point in this anymore. Like, I could concede to any nonsense they spout, but they still got to assume a flat plane before they make an assertion about a globe. So I could lose any point, but they still need a flat plane. So that's the point I want to get across.
And the only way to solve this is we got to get them on one-on-one, John versus McToon or whoever. Get them on and expose them in front of a live audience and share the freaking show.
What do you think we just did?
Neil, though, are they? They're not. Look, the only way.
Hang on, Adam. I'm sorry. Neil, what do you think we just did?
I didn't hear McToon. Why, he was on here?
No, well, they're not coming. Look how hard it is for John to get a debate set up where he says, I'll give you everything. I'll concede to everything. You pick the rules to place because the point is not winnable on their side. He says, I'll lose any point, and they're still going to need a flat earth plane measurement. So it's over.
Right, we don't need to win to debate. We only need to understand how fundamentally the entire globe model was originally based mathematically on a flat plane.
I think the only misconception was that there was actually a debate about this in the first place.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's like, I'll quote my hostile witness, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Smoking the grass. So I don't debate objective truth because he feels he has it, right? Well, I agree with that. You don't debate objective truth. It's just truth, and it's just objective. The very fact that they are debating what they think is their model, to me, tells me that they have a problem. Obviously, that this quote-unquote model can't stand on its own 2 feet, doesn't hold any water, so...
The globe model was always a work in progress, you know? Always. It's always this striving. It's an ideology. You got to keep building. We got to keep figuring this out, perfecting it, right? So it was always and will always be, for as long as it lasts, a work in progress.
Well, I remember reading the rules to the debate when they were first posted. I think Adam shared it. And they are saying all these these parameters that we can't use the stars in the sky because that belongs to the globe. No, the stars in the sky are the stars in the sky. And they're saying we can't use the books, the Nautical Almanac, where the GP of the star is. I mean, think about the lunacy, crazy nature of taking the star map, that's the sky, not the earth, and say we can't use that in a debate because that's how afraid they are.
Lunacy is derived from lunar, as in people who go out in the moonlight.
Yeah.
You guys are not allowed to use the stars because we've already used them to get elevation angles or flat plane to figure out our sphere. So
That's right.
therefore, you can't do that. We've already done it.
Yeah, we'll get the elevation angle
Wow,
to the
that's
star
what I'm saying.
for the start of this process and give you that elevation angle measurement that proves we're on a flat plane, off a flat plane, to you. From that point forward, you can't use the stars. We've already given you what we need and we got it from a flat Earth. But from there on in, it's all globe.
Well, hold on. Wait, no, because that's not true either. Because after they get the elevation angle measurement, then they're going to apply it within a model of a flat plane with a celestial sphere. So after we do all of that, after we model it, after we take the measurements, after we do everything and assert it's a flat plane, then we'll say it's a sphere because it's a flat plane, is what it's
Right.
coming.
Well, they will always have to bend the flat Earth into a ball afterwards, right? The entire system is like secondary to that flat Earth. It's all derived from that flat Earth, and everything bends afterward. So the entire globe model is reactionary to the flat Earth.
Right, it's on screen right now. This is the flat Earth and the elevation angle measurement from this guy's crotch to the star along a flat baseline. That's what an angle is, 2 straight lines. That's what you're measuring. And that's the celestial sphere model it'll be applied to, and then derived into a globe Earth thereafter. So they're 2 steps on a flat Earth journey, which they'll exclude you from using in the challenge, because you're not allowed to use the stars, their globe, after acquiring them from a flat plane, with an angle from a flat plane, and then applying them to a celestial sphere model that's a flat plane. Yeah. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.